13. Beloved Good Times. Actors who tragically passed away. What if I told you the actors who made us laugh on Good Times were living through tragedies far darker than anything shown on screen? From sudden deaths and bitter family battles to illnesses that silenced their voices too soon. The truth behind this beloved sitcom will shock you. These were not just characters. They were real people fighting struggles we never saw. Today we uncover the heartbreaking stories of 13 Good Times stars who left us far too soon. Stay with us. Subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence and help keep their powerful legacies alive. Jeanette DuBois. When audiences think of Good Times, it's often Jeanette DuBois who immediately comes to mind. Her portrayal of Willona Woods, the stylish and outspoken neighbor with a quick wit and a soft heart, made her one of the most beloved figures on the show. But behind that glamorous persona was a woman who had worked tirelessly for decades to break barriers, create opportunities, and redefine what it meant to be a black actress in Hollywood. Born Jeanette Teresa DuBois in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and raised in Brooklyn, New York, she discovered her love for the arts early. Before television came calling, DuBois had already made a name for herself on Broadway. She appeared in landmark productions like Golden Boy with Sammy Davis Jr. and A Raisin in the Sun, proving she had both the dramatic depth and comedic timing that would carry her far. Her big break in television came when she became the first black woman to hold a recurring role on a daytime soap opera, Love of Life. This groundbreaking move set the stage for her later success. Yet it was Good Times that gave her a platform to shine. As Willona DuBois embodied independence, sass, and vulnerability in equal measure. She wasn't just comic relief, she was representation for single black women navigating life with pride and resilience. One of her most memorable contributions to the show was her on-screen adoption of Penny, played by a young Janet Jackson. Off-screen, she mentored Jackson as well, leaving an imprint that lasted a lifetime. Years later, Jackson would write that DuBois broke stereotypes and changed the landscape for black women in entertainment. But DuBois's talents extended far beyond acting. She co-wrote and sang the iconic theme song Movin' On Up for the Jeffersons, a song that became an anthem of progress and upward mobility for African Americans in the 1970s. Few people realize that the voice they hear soaring through that unforgettable opening was DuBois herself. By the 1990s, she had expanded into voice acting, winning 2 Primetime Emmy Awards for her role as Mrs. Avery in Eddie Murphy's stop-motion series, The PJs. She also appeared in shows like Moesha Home Improvement and films including I'm Gonna Get You Sucka and Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. Her career spanned more than 5 decades, marked by an impressive ability to adapt, reinvent, and thrive. Question for you. Did you know Jeanette DuBois was also the voice behind one of television's most famous theme songs? Or does that surprise you? Away from the Spotlight. DuBois lived with flair and confidence. She was known for her elegant fashion, her booming laugh, and her ability to light up any room she walked into. She also gave back to her community by founding the Pan-African Film and Arts Festival in Los Angeles, a platform dedicated to showcasing black filmmakers and artists from around the world. Her passing on February 17, 2020, at age 74, came suddenly. Though the official cause was cardiac arrest, her death certificate revealed years of declining health due to chronic kidney disease and hypertension. Days later, her ashes were scattered at sea, a poetic ending for a woman who lived her life with freedom and creativity. Today, DuBois is remembered not only as Willona Woods, but also as a trailblazer who carved paths for others to follow. She brought laughter music and meaning to generations of fans, ensuring her place in television history. Esther Rolle. Esther Rolle was far more than just an actress. She was a force of conviction who refused to compromise her values even when it risked her career. Best remembered as Florida Evans, the strong and unyielding matriarch of Good Times role embodied dignity and principle both on and off screen. Her journey from a small farming town in Florida to becoming a groundbreaking voice in Hollywood remains one of the most inspiring stories in television history. Born on November 8, 1920 in Pompano Beach, Florida, Rolé was the 10th of 18 children. Her father, a Bahamian immigrant and vegetable farmer, and her mother instilled in her a deep sense of resilience and faith. Though she did not begin acting professionally until her 40s, her presence was commanding from the very start. She followed her older sister to New York, where she studied drama at the New School and eventually joined the Negro Ensemble Company, a hub for black artistic expression during the Civil Rights era. Her breakthrough role came when Norman Lear cast her in Maude as Florida Evans, a character so beloved that she transitioned into the family sitcom Good Times in 1974. As Florida Roll became a symbol of strength for African-American households. She portrayed a mother who worked tirelessly to protect her family's integrity despite poverty and hardship. Her character's love for her husband James, played by John Amos, reflected the stability and unity often missing from mainstream depictions of black families at the time. But Rolé was not afraid to challenge the system. After 3 seasons, she left Good Times in protest. She publicly condemned the growing focus on Jimmy Walker's JJ character, whose exaggerated catchphrases and clownish behavior she felt perpetuated harmful stereotypes. "I told them I couldn't compound the lie that black fathers don't care about their children," she once declared. Her decision to walk away at the height of success showed the world that her integrity mattered more than fame. Question for you. Do you think Esther Roll made the right choice by risking her career to fight against stereotypes on television? Roll's legacy extended far beyond sitcoms. She became the first woman to receive the NAACP Chairman's Civil Rights Leadership Award, recognizing her influence as both an artist and an activist. On stage, she appeared in productions such as A Raisin in the Sun and Maya Angelou's Down in the Delta. On screen, she continued to play roles of depth and substance, from Summer of My German Soldier, which earned her an Emmy, to Driving Miss Daisy. Her final years were not without struggle. She battled diabetes and endured a serious car accident that left her injured but determined to keep working. On November 17, 1998, just 9 days after her 78th birthday, Esther Roll passed away from complications of the disease. Her loss was deeply felt, but her impact remains everlasting. She refused to be boxed into stereotypes, demanded better representation for black families, and left behind a body of work that continues to inspire. Esther Roll didn't just play Florida Evans, she lived as a beacon of truth, proving that principle and power can change the way the world sees you. John Amos. John Amos was never the kind of actor who just delivered lines. He brought with him an unshakable sense of truth, integrity, and determination. Best known as James Evans Sr., the hard-working patriarch of Good Times, Amos gave television one of its most authentic portrayals of a black father. But behind the applause and fame was a man whose career was marked by both triumph and turmoil, courage and controversy. Born on December 27, 1939 in Newark, New Jersey, Amos grew up in a working-class family that valued grit and perseverance. Before acting, he was an athlete, earning a football scholarship to Colorado State University, where he studied sociology. He later signed with the Denver Broncos in 1964, but was cut from the team before the season began. His brief football career also included stints with the Kansas City Chiefs and Canadian leagues, but injuries forced him to rethink his path. He turned to writing and stand-up comedy, eventually finding work as a scriptwriter for Leslie Uggams' show. His transition to acting came naturally, and by the early 1970s, Amos was cast in Norman Lear's Maude. That role led to Good Times, where his portrayal of James Evans Sr. redefined black fatherhood on television. Strong, disciplined, and sometimes stern, Amos's character was a reflection of real-life parents who struggled against poverty but never abandoned their families. Yet Amos clashed with producers. He grew frustrated with the direction of the show, particularly the exaggerated antics of Jimmy Walker's JJ character, which he felt undermined the authenticity of black family life. His refusal to compromise led to his character being killed off in season 4. While it cost him the role, it cemented his reputation as an actor unwilling to betray his principles. Question for you. Do you think John Amos's decision to speak out against stereotypes helped strengthen his legacy even though it cost him one of television's biggest roles? After Good Times, Amos continued to prove his versatility. In 1977, he delivered one of the most powerful performances of his career as the adult Kunta Kinte in Roots. The miniseries became a landmark in American television history, and Amos's role earned him critical acclaim. He also appeared in films like Coming to America 1988, Die Hard 2, 1990, and the cult favorite Lock Up with Sylvester Stallone. His television credits spanned decades from The West Wing to Men in Trees. Despite his professional achievements, Amos's personal life grew complicated in later years. In 2023, a family feud erupted when his daughter accused his son of elder abuse. John Amos publicly defended his son, but the legal battles strained the family. When Amos died on August 21, 2024, at age 84 from congestive heart failure, his death wasn't even announced until 6 weeks later, as he had reportedly wished to avoid public spectacle. Though his final chapter was marred by family conflict, John Amos remains a towering figure in American television. His legacy is that of a man who fought for dignity in storytelling, refused to bow to stereotypes, and gave audiences a father figure who felt real, complex, and unforgettable. Johnny Brown. Johnny Brown may not have been the headline star of Good Times, but his presence as Nathan Bookman, the building superintendent, constantly ridiculed with nicknames like Buffalo Butt, made him unforgettable. Beneath the humor and bumbling mannerisms of Bookman, however, was an entertainer with extraordinary range. A singer-dancer, comedian, and actor who spent his life navigating both the joy and the pain of show business. Born on June 11, 1937, in St. Petersburg, Florida, and raised in Harlem, New York, Brown's love for performing emerged early. He won an amateur talent contest at the legendary Apollo Theater, which propelled him into nightclubs and stages across the city. A gifted mimic and vocalist, he became known for his impressions and comedic timing. His talents eventually landed him a spot on Broadway, where he starred alongside Sammy Davis Jr. in Golden Boy 1964, showing the world that he was more than just a comic. He was a multifaceted performer. In the 1960s and 70s, Brown made waves on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, and was once considered for the role of Lamont on Sanford and Son. However, contract obligations kept him from taking that part, a missed opportunity that could have changed the trajectory of his career. Still, he persevered, working in both television and music, and in 1975 he joined the cast of Good Times. As Bookman, Brown brought warmth and humor, but the role also carried frustration. In later interviews, he admitted that the constant fat jokes weighed heavily on him, but as a father and husband, he accepted them to provide for his family. His ability to endure those struggles while still delivering laughs spoke to his resilience and professionalism. Question for you. Do you think Johnny Brown's role as Bookman deserves more respect than it often gets in sitcom history beyond Good Times? Brown's career stretched across decades. He appeared in over 50 productions, including The Wiz, touched by an Angel Keenan and Kel, and even commercial jingles like Ride On Brother, Ride On for Papermate. He was also part of The Leslie Uggams Show, the first variety program hosted by a black woman, cementing his role in television history. His comedic style, quick wit, and musical background made him an all-around entertainer who could command any stage. Off-screen, Brown's life was anchored by love and family. He was married to June Russell for an astonishing 61 years, and together they raised 2 children, including actress Sharon Catherine Brown. His devotion to his family was just as enduring as his career, and when he died unexpectedly on March 2, 2022, at age 84, collapsing just after a routine pacemaker checkup, the shock rippled through Hollywood and beyond. Tributes poured in, with Janet Jackson calling him forever smiling and remembering his generosity on set. To those who knew him, Johnny Brown wasn't simply Buffalo Butt. He was a pioneer, a craftsman, and a man who gave everything he had to his craft. His legacy lies not only in laughter, but also in the love he carried for his family and the joy he left behind for audiences across generations. Ben Powers. For many Good Times fans, Ben Powers is remembered as Keith Anderson, Thelma Evans's handsome husband whose NFL dreams were shattered after a devastating injury on their wedding day. His role in the show's final season brought both charm and heartbreak. But beyond that moment in television history, Powers lived a life filled with talent, promise, and mystery. His story is one of early success, quiet retreat, and a lingering question: why did he walk away from the spotlight so soon? Born Alton Adelbert, Ben Powers on July 5, 1950 in Brooklyn, New York, he was raised in Providence, Rhode Island by his grandparents. Powers showed artistic gifts from a young age, excelling at sketching and painting before transitioning into comedy and acting. He studied at the Rhode Island School of Design, but soon realized his true calling was performance. His blend of good looks, natural charisma, and humor made him a standout on the nightclub circuit, where he performed impressions and musical routines. By the mid-1970s, Powers was performing in Playboy clubs when a Hollywood agent discovered him. His first major break came with Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In revival in 1977, where his comedic timing and energetic presence caught attention. Just a year later, he was cast in Good Times. As Keith Anderson, Powers played an NFL hopeful whose leg injury and descent into alcoholism mirrored real-life struggles faced by countless athletes. His wedding scene with Thelma Bernadette Stannis became one of the show's most iconic moments, and though their on-screen marriage had rocky turns, their off-screen friendship was full of respect and kindness. Stannis later recalled how professional and gentle he was, saying, "He treated me like a queen." Question for you. Do you think Ben Powers deserved more recognition for his acting talent, or was he overshadowed by the show's bigger stars? After Good Times, Powers appeared in several television shows, including the new Mike Hammer, The Greatest American Hero, and Laverne and Shirley. On the big screen, he acted alongside Burt Reynolds in The Man Who Loved Women and popped up in comedies like Cheech and Chong's Next Movie and Things Are Tough All Over. Despite his versatility, he never landed another breakout role. By the late 1980s, Powers disappeared from Hollywood almost entirely. He gave few interviews, avoided publicity, and lived a private life away from the entertainment world. Even many of his co-stars lost touch with him, which only added to the mystery surrounding his departure. Some speculated that he wanted to pursue art again, while others believed he simply preferred life outside the industry's relentless demands. On April 6, 2015, Ben Powers died quietly at age 64 after a private battle with liver cancer. His passing barely made headlines, but for those who remembered his work, it was a sad reminder of a talent that had once burned brightly before fading into obscurity. Today, Ben Powers is remembered not only for his role in Good Times, but also as a symbol of how fleeting fame can be. His legacy lingers in the laughter he created, the hearts he touched, and the mystery of a career that ended far too soon. Albert Reed Jr. Albert Reed Jr. may not have been the most famous name to come out of Good Times, but his presence gave depth to the world the Evans family inhabited. Reed played Alderman Fred C. Davis, a slick politician whose charm masked corruption, and he also appeared as Mr. Wilson, adding to the show's tapestry of neighborhood figures. But what set Reed apart from many of his peers was the fact that he lived a fascinating double life, one as a working actor in Hollywood, and another as a real-life security chief at one of the busiest airports in the world. Born on January 28, 1910, in Greenville, Texas, Albert Reed Jr. grew up during a period when opportunities for black men in entertainment were scarce. He began working in law enforcement in the 1950s, long before Hollywood came calling. By 1959, he had joined airport security, steadily climbing the ranks until he became the chief of security at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX, in 1979. At a time when airport safety was gaining national attention, Reed's position carried enormous responsibility. Despite his demanding day job, Reed found time for acting. His first significant appearance came in the 1970 disaster film Airport, where he played Lieutenant Ned Ordway, a role that mirrored his real-world profession. Over the years, he built a reputation as a reliable character actor. Audiences saw him in Sanford and Son as Grady Wilson before Whitman Mayo made the role iconic in The Jeffersons as Uncle Ward and in The Secret of Isis as Dr. Barnes. Each role may have been small, but Reed delivered them with a realism shaped by his own life experience. On Good Times, his portrayal of Alderman Fred Davis reflected a truth many viewers recognized. Politicians often spoke with slick promises, but delivered little change. Reed's Davis was both charismatic and untrustworthy, embodying the community's skepticism toward political leaders. His ability to portray such nuance came from his grounded perspective as a man who worked in public service outside Hollywood. Question for you. Do you think Albert Reed's real-life career in law enforcement helped him bring more authenticity to his television roles? Reed never sought stardom. Acting seemed to be more of a passion than a career path. He balanced it with his full-time work, and though he appeared in numerous productions throughout the 1970s, he never chased fame or headlines. His performances carried weight precisely because they came from someone who lived in the real world, not only on stage or screen. On May 31, 1986, Albert Reed Jr. passed away in Bishop, California at the age of 76. His death drew little media attention, and like much of his life, it was quiet and understated. Yet his contributions to both entertainment and public safety left a unique legacy. Few actors could say they held a badge by day and a script by night, but Reed did so with dignity. Today, fans of Good Times remember him as one of the faces that made the Evans family's world feel real. His story is a reminder that not every influential actor becomes a household name, but their work can still leave a lasting impression. Theodore Wilson. Few recurring characters on Good Times stood out as vividly as Sweet Daddy Williams. Played by Theodore Wilson. Sweet Daddy was the flashy neighborhood hustler, always draped in sharp suits and gold jewelry, with a smooth voice that could charm and intimidate in equal measure. While audiences loved to laugh at his bravado, Wilson's portrayal gave Sweet Daddy more than just swagger. It gave him humanity. Behind the character's flashy exterior was an actor whose career was promising, but whose life was cut tragically short. Theodore Roosevelt Wilson was born on December 10, 1943, in Harlem, New York. Originally, his passion was music. He studied at Florida A&M University with hopes of becoming a musician before shifting his focus to drama. In the 1960s, he joined the prestigious Negro Ensemble Company, and later the Arena Stage Repertory, immersing himself in serious theater productions. These early experiences gave him strong dramatic foundations, though his career would eventually flourish in comedy. Wilson's screen debut came in 1970 with the film Cotton Comes to Harlem, one of the defining movies of the blaxploitation era. He soon found steady work in television, appearing in That's My Mama as the lovable mailman Earl, and in Rollout, a short-lived sitcom produced by Norman Lear. But his most memorable role came in the mid-1970s with Good Times, where Sweet Daddy Williams became a fan favorite. As Sweet Daddy Wilson struck the perfect balance between comedy and menace. With his extravagant clothes, sly catchphrases, and tough guy attitude, he was a character who could have easily been one-dimensional. But Wilson infused him with depth, making him both intimidating and oddly endearing. It was this combination that made Sweet Daddy one of the most memorable supporting characters of the series. Question for you. Did you see Sweet Daddy Williams as more of a villain or as comic relief with a heart beneath the hustle? Outside Good Times, Wilson's career was steady. He appeared in shows like The Golden Girls, Family Matters, and Quantum Leap, and even had a role in Tales from the Crypt. In 1977, he headlined Sanford Arms, a spin-off of Sanford and Son, though it was canceled after just 4 episodes. On film, his last appearance came in Blood In, Blood Out, 1993, released after his passing. Wilson's personal life was deeply rooted in family. He had 3 children, including 2, with actress Joan Pringle, his co-star from That's My Mama. Colleagues remembered him as humble, warm, and dedicated to his craft. Tragedy struck on July 21, 1991, when Theodore Wilson suffered a fatal stroke at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. He was only 47 years old. His sudden passing shocked fans and cut short a career that still held great promise. Today, Theodore Wilson is remembered not just as Sweet Daddy Williams, but as a talented actor who brought flair and dimension to every role. His legacy lives on in the laughs he inspired, the characters he brought to life, and the reminder that sometimes the most flamboyant personalities carry the deepest truths. Helen Martin. For 6 decades, Helen Martin carved out a place in American entertainment, defying stereotypes and proving that age was no barrier to wit, charm, or boldness. On Good Times, audiences knew her as Wanda, nicknamed Weeping Wanda, a comic neighbor who often burst into tears at the slightest provocation. Later, she became even more famous as Pearl Shea, the nosy but lovable busybody on 227. But Martin was more than the quirky grandmother roles she became known for. She was a pioneer who fought her way through the barriers of an industry that too often limited black actresses to one-dimensional parts. Helen Dorothy Martin was born on July 23, 1909 in St. Louis, Missouri, and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. She attended Fisk University but left to pursue acting in the 1930s at a time when opportunities for black women were scarce. To survive the Great Depression, she worked as a domestic even while auditioning and honing her craft. She eventually joined the Works Progress Administration Theater Project and trained with some of the most influential directors of her time. In 1940, Martin co-founded the American Negro Theater in Harlem, alongside legends like Sidney Poitier and Ruby Dee. The company became a springboard for black talent, breaking down barriers on Broadway and in Hollywood. Martin herself went on to perform in productions such as Native Son, The Amen Corner, and A Raisin in the Sun. Her stage career proved she could handle both comedy and serious drama with equal brilliance. Television, however, gave Martin her widest audience. As Weeping Wanda on Good Times, she stole scenes with her exaggerated sobs and comic timing. Later on 227, she became Pearl Shea, the neighborhood gossip, whose sharp tongue and nosy habits made her an iconic sitcom grandmother. Younger viewers knew her from films like Hollywood Shuffle 1987, House Party 2 1991, and Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Your Juice in the Hood 1996, where she often played elderly characters who shocked audiences with their blunt humor. Question for you. Do you think Helen Martin's fearless comedic style helped pave the way for modern sitcom grandmothers we see on TV today? Her candid personality was just as memorable off-screen. In a now famous 1990s late-night interview, she declared with a mischievous grin, "I love reefer," while promoting a comedy about a pot-smoking grandmother. The audience roared with laughter, and Martin danced on stage, proving that even in her 80s, she could outshine younger performers. Despite often being typecast, she embraced her roles with pride and always found ways to inject depth and dignity into them. She never married and had no children, but she became a grandmother figure to millions of fans across generations. On March 25, 2000, Helen Martin passed away at the age of 90 in Monterey, California from a heart attack. Her loss was deeply felt, but her legacy is everlasting. She left behind not only memorable performances, but also a trailblazing example of persistence, courage, and humor. Helen Martin proved that laughter can be powerful, that age is no limitation, and that even the smallest roles can leave the biggest marks on our hearts. Moses Gunn. When Moses Gunn appeared on Good Times as Carl Dixon, the kind-hearted shop owner who eventually married Florida Evans, he brought warmth and depth that resonated with audiences. But Carl was only one chapter in Gunn's remarkable career. A classically trained actor with a booming, resonant voice, Gunn was one of the most respected black actors of his generation, commanding both Broadway stages and television screens with equal authority. Born on October 2, 1929 in St. Louis, Missouri, Gunn's early life was marked by hardship. His mother died when he was young, and at age 12, he ran away from home hopping trains and surviving on the streets until a compassionate teacher named Jewel Ritchie helped him return to school. That guidance changed his life. After serving in the U.S. Army, Gunn pursued higher education, earning a degree from Tennessee State University and later studying drama at the University of Kansas. His theatrical journey began in the 1960s with the groundbreaking off-Broadway production The Blacks, directed by Gene Frankel. His powerful presence caught critical attention, and soon he became a founding member of the Negro Ensemble Company, where he starred in productions like The First Breeze of Summer. He built a reputation as a Shakespearean actor of extraordinary depth, tackling roles like Othello and King Lear with a gravity that few could match. On screen, Gunn became widely recognized for his role as crime boss Bumpy Jonas in Shaft 1971. He later portrayed Booker T. Washington in Ragtime 1981, appeared in The Never-Ending Story 1984, and co-starred in Heartbreak Ridge 1986. His television work was equally impressive. In 1977, he earned an Emmy nomination for his role as Contango in the landmark miniseries Roots. Question for you. Do you think Moses Gunn's powerful stage training gave him an advantage that made his TV and film performances unforgettable? When Gunn stepped into the role of Carl Dixon on Good Times, he brought something rare dignity. Carl wasn't a caricature or comic relief. He was a caring partner to Florida Evans after the death of her husband James. For many viewers, his character symbolized stability and the possibility of love and resilience after loss. Yet Gunn's career was not without struggle. Despite his extraordinary talent, Hollywood often relegated him to supporting roles, failing to fully recognize his range. Still, he persisted balancing stage, film, and television throughout his career. Sadly, his life was cut short. On December 16, 1993, Moses Gunn died at the age of 64 due to complications from asthma, an illness he had battled for years. Even as his health declined, he continued performing, determined to leave the stage on his own terms. At the time of his passing, he was still active in theater, proving his dedication to the craft until the very end. Moses Gunn's legacy is that of a performer who brought truth, authority, and humanity to every role. From Shakespeare to sitcoms, from blaxploitation films to Broadway, he broke barriers and left behind a body of work that continues to inspire actors today. His voice may be gone, but the power of his presence lives on. Matthew Stymie Beard. Long before his appearance on Good Times, Matthew Stymie Beard was already a household name, though many fans might not have recognized him as an adult. As a child actor in the 1930s, Beard became famous as part of Hal Roach's Our Gang comedies, later known as The Little Rascals. With his trademark derby hat, quick wit, and mischievous charm, Stymie became one of the most beloved characters of the series. But like so many child stars, Beard's early fame didn't protect him from a lifetime of hardship. His story is a bittersweet reminder of how fleeting Hollywood success can be. Born on January 1, 1925 in Los Angeles, California, Beard was one of 14 children raised in a deeply religious household. His father was a Baptist minister. At just 5 years old, he was cast in Our Gang, replacing Alan Farina Hoskins. Director Robert McGowan nicknamed him Stymie because young Matthew would wander onto sets and stymie production. With his oversized bowler hat, gifted comedic timing, and clever one-liners, he quickly became a fan favorite. At the height of his career, he was one of the most recognizable child actors in America. Despite the fame, Beard's earnings largely went to support his large family. By the time he was a teenager, his career had dried up. Hollywood had little interest in transitioning black child stars into adult roles, and Beard soon found himself adrift. Struggling to find acceptance and purpose, he turned to heroin, beginning a cycle of addiction arrests and incarceration that lasted nearly 2 decades. Question for you. Do you think Hollywood failed Matthew Beard by not supporting its child stars beyond their youth? Or was his downfall inevitable, given the times? In the 1960s, Beard finally found a lifeline. He entered Synanon, a controversial drug rehabilitation program in California, where he overcame his addiction and began rebuilding his life. He reinvented himself as a public speaker, visiting schools to warn young people about the dangers of drugs. This new path also gave him another chance in Hollywood. He began making guest appearances in shows like Sanford and Son Maud, and of course Good Times, where audiences delighted in seeing the grown-up Stymie return to television. He even landed a small part in the Buddy Holly story, 1978, proudly wearing the derby hat that had made him famous decades earlier. Unfortunately, Beard's comeback was short-lived. On January 8, 1981, just days after his 56th birthday, he suffered a stroke, fell down a flight of stairs, and later died from pneumonia complications caused by the fall. He was laid to rest wearing the derby hat that symbolized both his rise to fame and the innocence of his early years. Matthew Stymie Beard's life was a mix of joy and tragedy, child star addict survivor, and comeback story. While his struggles cast a long shadow, his legacy as one of the most beloved members of our gang endures. More importantly, his openness about his battle with addiction helped inspire others to seek recovery, ensuring that his story continues to carry meaning far beyond Hollywood. Raymond Allen. For sitcom fans of the 1970s, Raymond Allen was one of those faces you never forgot. Though rarely in the spotlight as a leading man, Allen had a gift for turning even small roles into memorable moments. On Good Times, he became Ned the Wino, the perpetually tipsy but oddly wise neighborhood drunk whose humor masked deeper truths about poverty and survival. For many viewers, Ned was more than just comic relief. He was a reflection of real struggles that existed outside their doors. Raymond Gilmore Allen was born on March 5, 1929 in Kansas City, Missouri. From an early age, he was drawn to performing, working in local theater before breaking into television. His career began in the 1940s, but it wasn't until the 1970s that he became a familiar presence in American households. His acting style was subtle yet effective. He could take what seemed like a throwaway character and give him charm, warmth, and depth. His breakout came with Sanford and Son, where he played Woodrow Woody Anderson, the henpecked husband of Aunt Esther LaWanda Page. Their fiery back-and-forth banter quickly became a fan favorite. Shortly after, Allen appeared in Good Times as Ned the Wino, a character who, despite his alcoholism, offered raw honesty and comedic relief. With his disheveled clothes, staggering walk, and hilarious one-liners, Allen made Ned unforgettable. Beyond those two iconic roles, Allen made appearances in popular shows such as Starsky and Hutch the Love Boat, The Jeffersons, and What's Happening. His versatility allowed him to slip seamlessly into comedies and dramas alike, always leaving a mark even if his screen time was brief. Question for you. Do you think characters like Ned the Wino gave sitcoms more authenticity by showing the struggles of everyday people, or did they risk reinforcing stereotypes? Sadly, Allen's acting career was cut short in 1985 due to illness. While he stepped away from Hollywood, he never fully left his fans. He frequently attended conventions, signed autographs, and connected with audiences who still cherished his work. Despite fading from the screen, his impact lingered in the hearts of those who grew up with him. In his final years, Allen faced serious health challenges. He battled a respiratory infection in 2016 that left him weakened, and he spent much of his later life in a California care facility. On August 10, 2020, he passed away at the age of 91. His daughter, actress Ta-Ron Allen, announced the news with heartfelt words, remembering her father's warmth and humor. Though he never reached superstar status, Raymond Allen achieved something equally important. He made people laugh, and he brought humanity to characters who might otherwise have been overlooked. From Woody Anderson to Ned the Wino, he turned small parts into cultural touchstones, proving that even the quietest performers can leave the loudest echoes. Raymond Allen's legacy reminds us that character actors are the heartbeat of television. They give life to the world around the main stars, and in doing so, etch themselves into history. Bubba Smith. Charles Bubba Smith was a man who stood larger than life, literally and figuratively. At 6'7" and nearly 300 pounds, he first rose to fame as a dominant defensive end in professional football before reinventing himself as a beloved comedic actor. For many fans, he was the towering presence of Police Academy, but others remember his guest role on Good Times as Claude, where his size and humor made him instantly memorable. Yet behind the smiles and laughter was a man who carried the hidden scars of his playing days, scars that would ultimately contribute to his tragic death. Born on February 28, 1945 in Beaumont, Texas, Smith grew up in a segregated South where opportunities for black athletes were limited. But his talent on the football field couldn't be denied. At Michigan State University, he became a two-time All-American and led the Spartans to national prominence. In 1967, he was drafted first overall by the Baltimore Colts, a rare achievement that cemented him as one of the most promising players of his generation. Smith played 9 seasons in the NFL, suiting up for the Colts, Oakland Raiders, and Houston Oilers. He won Super Bowl V with Baltimore, though he famously refused to wear his championship ring because he was haunted by the Colts' devastating loss in Super Bowl III. Injuries eventually ended his career in 1976, and Smith retired with 52.5 career sacks and a reputation as one of the most feared pass rushers of his era. When football ended, acting began. Smith transitioned smoothly into Hollywood, where his imposing size became his trademark. He appeared in numerous TV shows, commercials, and films. Audiences adored him as Moses Hightower in the Police Academy series, a gentle giant whose strength was matched by his kind heart. His comedic timing and physical presence made him one of the most beloved characters of the franchise. Question for you. Did you first know Bubba Smith as an NFL star? Or did you discover him through his iconic movie roles? Despite his success, Smith lived a quiet personal life. He never married, rarely gave interviews, and preferred to stay out of the spotlight when cameras weren't rolling. His 1983 autobiography revealed some of his disillusionment with the NFL, especially regarding the toll football took on players' bodies. On August 3, 2011, Bubba Smith was found dead in his Los Angeles home at age 66. Initially, his death was ruled as a result of drug intoxication combined with heart disease. But further examinations revealed something even more tragic. Smith was suffering from stage 3 CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated head trauma. His diagnosis made him one of the earliest NFL greats confirmed to have endured this condition, shining a harsh light on the hidden dangers of professional football. Bubba Smith's life was a mixture of triumph and tragedy. He broke barriers in sports, brought laughter to millions on screen, and yet suffered from the long-term consequences of a game he gave everything to. Today, his legacy lives on as both a warning about the costs of football and a celebration of a man who proved he could excel in 2 worlds, sports and entertainment. Richard Ward. Richard Ward was one of those rare performers who never needed to shout to command attention. With his gravelly voice, steady presence, and emotional depth, he gave weight to every role he played. On Good Times, Ward portrayed Henry Evans James's estranged father who returns seeking forgiveness. It was a storyline filled with raw emotion, and Ward's performance gave it authenticity, leaving audiences deeply moved. Yet beyond his time on the sitcom, Ward lived a fascinating life, one marked by reinvention, artistic courage, and a career that blossomed later than most. Born on March 15, 1915 in Glens Falls, New York, Richard Ward lived many lives before Hollywood came calling. He worked as a prize fighter, a carnival barker, and even served as a detective with the New York City Police Department. These experiences shaped the tough lived-in quality he later brought to his roles. It wasn't until 1949, when he was already in his mid-30s, that he seriously pursued acting. Unlike many who start young, Ward built his craft with the weight of real-world experience behind him. Ward's stage career began with off-Broadway productions, and by the 1960s and 70s, he was regarded as one of the most respected character actors in New York theater. His most celebrated performance came in 1972 when he starred as Willie Loman in the first all-black production of Death of a Salesman. Critics praised his portrayal as groundbreaking, noting that he brought new dimensions to Arthur Miller's tragic figure. His transition to television and film gave him even greater visibility. He made guest appearances on shows like Sanford and Son All in the Family, The Jeffersons, and Starsky and Hutch. He also acted in films including The Learning Tree, 1969, Mandingo, 1975, and The Jerk, 1979, often portraying characters caught between moral conviction and societal pressures. Question for you. Do you think Richard Ward's late start in acting gave him a depth that younger performers might not have been able to capture on Good Times? Ward's portrayal of Henry Evans was a turning point. The storyline tackled the pain of generational rifts and the importance of reconciliation within families. Ward's nuanced performance made Henry more than just a deadbeat dad. Instead, he embodied a man weighed down by regret, but still yearning for redemption. Despite his growing recognition, Ward never became a household name in the way some of his peers did. But those who worked with him admired his professionalism and his ability to elevate any project. His characters always felt real because they were rooted in the grit of his own life experiences. Tragically, Richard Ward's career was cut short when he died of a heart attack on July 1, 1979, at the age of 64. His passing came just months after one of his final television appearances, leaving fans shocked and saddened. Though his name may not always be remembered first, Richard Ward's influence lingers in the power of his performances. He was proof that great acting isn't always about fame or accolades, it's about truth, honesty, and the ability to move people deeply. The stories of the Good Times cast remind us that behind the laughter were real people carrying pain, triumph, and unshakable dignity. Some left us too soon, others after long battles, but all left legacies that shaped Black television history. Their lives prove that fame never shields us from struggle, yet their courage continues to inspire. Which of these actors touched you the most, and why? Share your thoughts below. Because at Legends of Black Excellence, we keep their memories alive by honoring their truths, their struggles, and the joy they gave the world.